Okay, so here are some of our supplies for our coil pot. I have a variety of different clay tools you can use. We have the slip, which is the really watery down clay, some water, and the clay itself. So the first thing you want to do is make the base for your coil pot or cup or whatever you're making. So take a piece of your clay and basically want to make like a disc. You can choose what shape you want the bottom of your piece to be, but we just kind of want to pound it out flat. I would say don't pound too hard on these tables because this is what happens with sticks. So maybe just kind of do it up here in your hands. It should be about the thickness of your pinky. That's a good width so that it's nice and strong for the bottom. So I'm going to make this one round. If you want it to be perfectly round, I would suggest taking something, setting it on there, tracing it to get perfectly round. If you want a more organic shape, that's up to you. But I'm just kind of squishing it all in so it's a good solid base. Okay, so you can do this shape, you can do whatever shape you want, you could do a square, a triangle, whatever your plan was for the bottom. Okay, so I have my bottom, I'm just going to set that to the side now. Now I'm going to start rolling out my coils. And this clay is pretty moist, and these tables like to hold it in, so it's going to be a little bit tricky. So take a clump of clay and first start by just kind of making it into a log-like shape in your hands. This will make it a little bit easier in the long run. Okay. So then we're going to start rolling the clay out. Now this is just like you did if you played with Play-Doh or whatever, just a little bit messier. So you want to use the palms of your hands. If you use your fingers, you're going to get weird divots and it'll start breaking apart. So use the palms of your hands, it's the firmest part, and just kind of keep your fingers up so you're not tempted to use them. Start in the middle and just lightly press out. When it gets kind of a weird lopsided, you can kind of put it up on the tall side, gently pat it down, and go out so that we're stretching the coil. Now you don't want your coils too super thin because then they become flimsy. If you want to smooth out your coil pot so the sides don't have any coil showing, you do want to keep them a little fatter too. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. A little bit skinnier. Okay, so now I'm going to take my base and we need to do the scoring and slipping process. You can use kind of a variety of tools for the scoring part. This is called a pin tool. It's a pin. You could use a little knife, a fork, anything that will just kind of rough up the edge. So the first step is to rough up where the clay is going to go. So basically, I like to think of it as two sides of Velcro. Then I'm going to rough up my coil also. For that, I'm just going to use the knife. A fork works good because you can kind of go a little bit faster. Okay, so that's roughed up. Now I'm going to add my slip, which is the gooey, nasty stuff that looks like peanut butter. So take a little bit of that, just kind of dab it on what you just roughed up on your base here. And this will act as our glue. Then you're going to take your coil, make sure you use your scored side, and put it down onto the base and kind of wiggle it around so it really attaches like the Velcro I was just talking about. Wiggle. Wiggle. Okay, so now I'm at where I started. I'm gonna take my knife here, and now I need to score this new coil. Get a little bit of slip. You don't need a ton of slip, just enough to kind of help it bond. And just go right up onto the other coil. Oops. Let's see. Okay, and you're just going to keep going around like that, kind of wiggling so it's attached really nice. If you don't do the scoring and slipping part, there is a large chance it could just kind of all pop off once I put it in the kiln and I fire it. Now you'll see that some places might be lower than others or higher because of the way the coil went. We can just fill that in with small coils if you're worried about it being perfectly straight. So then to make it taller, you would just keep repeating the process. Roll out some more coil, score, slip, and attach. So let me show you some examples of other options for your coil. Okay, so a lot of people ask about braids or twists. You just want to roll out some coil, and you want to make sure that they don't get too dry. If they're too dry, they will start cracking, and it just won't work. So to make a twist, you just take 2 coils, kind of join them together at the top, and then twist. Kind of pinch the bottom together. When you go to add this onto your pot, you'll just score the areas that actually hit the pot itself. So I could just lean it up on its side, hit those edges. I'm gonna rough up my whole pot over here. A little bit of slip. And I can put my twist on. Okay, same thing for a braid. So 3 coils. You don't want them dry, but you don't want them super wet. Just kind of pinch the top together and braid. It's hard to braid upside down. Pinch the bottom. Same thing, you can put that right onto your pot like that. You could also do a coil and kind of twist it around so it looks like a snake. Then add that onto your pot, something like this. Score and slip. You could do circular coils. You can make a coil and kind of flatten it out on 4 sides so that now you have a square. You can put that onto your pot. You could just do round pieces and score and slip wherever they're going to go onto your bowl. Especially if you're going to do any of these, you really need to score and slip because they pop off very easily. You should even score and slip in between them so that they hold on to each other. You could make some little triangles to do like a little flower thing. It's really up to you. You can also think about doing different textures. So here's just kind of a plain side. Once I get it all smoothed out, I still want to be able to see the coils. I'm just cleaning it up. But I could use different tools that have different textures on them, or really anything you find in the classroom that can create an imprint. So you go around, make some marks like that. Here's a little tool that has a sharp edge in it. I could use the back side of my pin tool. It has a nice rounded part. Oops. Too wet for that. Maybe once it dries up a little bit. Yeah, I don't like that. So you can kind of play around with the tools to see what kind of marks they can make. Okay, so you have lots of options. So this one, you can see that there's holes in it, so it would not be able to hold water. If you want it to hold liquid, we either have to smooth the outside or the inside. So to smooth them, if you want to be able to see your coils, but you still want to hold liquid, you're going to use what's called a rib, because they used to be made out of animal ribs, and basically just pull up the clay on the inside so that we create a seal, and that won't affect the outside look. This clay is really wet, so we may want to do any of this smoothing in a day or two once it kind of firms up, so we don't ruin the integrity of our coils on the outside. Okay, so that's kind of the basic shape. You can go in, you can go out, whatever you need to do by basically staggering the coils either to the inside or the outside. If you do not want to see the coils, you will just make your coils a little bit fatter, and then we're going to smooth out the outside. So again, because this clay is so wet, we may need to wait a day or two, but basically supporting the outside, the inside with our hands, we can then take the rib and just kind of pull the clay up and smooth it out. Kind of go to the side. So that we're getting rid of our coils. Again, this clay is really moist, so this may be good to do if you have moist clay on day 2 or 3. Then you would go back, make everything pretty, smooth everything out. We don't want any little pieces of clay like this because they become razor blades once they're fired in a kiln, so you really want to make sure everything is nice and smooth. So that's smoothing out the outside. Just make sure your coils are a little bit fatter so that once we move that clay around, it doesn't collapse your vessel. At the end of class today, you are going to get a plastic bag and a piece of tape and a Sharpie. Please write your name, and probably table number would be good on the tape. You're going to carefully set your project in the bottom, kind of wrap it up like this, stick your name on it, because obviously these all look the same once they have the bag on, so make sure yours is labeled. You're also going to have a huge mess at your desk, so please take a sponge and some water or spray, clean this area up. You need to also wash off any tools you use and bring those back to the front so that we're ready for the next class. All right, that's it.